welcome to the Digital Zone. I'm Sandrine Rastello. I am joined today by Axel van Trustenberg, World Bank Senior Managing Director for Policy Development and Partnership, and Amina Mohamed, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Amina. So we're at the halfway point of the Sustainable Development Goals. We know the world is off track. What will it take now to get the goals on track?
Well, yes, we are very much off track with the SDGs, and what it will take is all of government, all of people, all of business lift. But we're here this week because really the means of implementation, the finance, the trade, technology, all has to be there for us to get those goals in place. It'll mean it for emerging markets, for developing economies, for the poorest countries that we have. But they're all in context too, because investments in these development needs will also help us to reduce the conflicts, to deal with the migration issues that we have and the refugees. So really it's complex, but it is doable. It's a question of moving resources to where they're needed and to do it in scale and with a sense of urgency.
How is this message heard right now in the meetings?
It's heard, and you will certainly see from the last G20 meetings and the UN General Assembly that there is political will for us to move forward on this. It's now about us getting the mechanics of it ready to get those who have it to move it into those spaces where we need it and to bring down the barriers of access to finance. There is an SDG stimulus that the Secretary General's put on the table of the United Nations. It's accepted as what we can do now with the institutions that we have. But in the longer term, we're going to have to look at the international financial architecture, that it becomes more fit for purpose for the 8 billion people on this earth.
Axel, how can the World Bank be a good partner in achieving these goals?
Well, first of all, I think, as Amina said, this will require that all pull together. I think the scene was set by the United Nations General Assembly, where there was a fairly sober assessment of the midterm review. Only 15% of the goals have been achieved to date. So that's actually quite dramatic. So this will require actually trillions of dollars of investments. Currently, we have not identified those investments. But what the key message is that every organization, whether that's a multilateral organization, bilateral organization, public sector institutions, but also the private sector have to pull together. And I think that certainly this annual meetings is responding in part certainly to this challenge, namely that also organizations like the World Bank have to further reform to see what we can do better. But we have also been clear, you need to see what you can do internally, mobilize as much as we can. But if you are looking at the numbers, also those numbers that the Secretary General issued, then we are falling short. And that means that we have actually to go back and say, look, how can we do more? And that is a challenge to the international community. I think that is not heard in my mind sufficiently, and let alone acted upon. And I think what this meeting should also do is that we need to rally that political support and then translate that finally into budget and dollars.
So you mentioned the World Bank is willing and trying to reform.
I think there is a must. Well, you know, I actually think that the bank, through its existence, has always reformed. What is happening with all these institutions, you get criticized, you need to do this. I think that's part of the process that makes you better. But I think when you take a step back and you look at where the SDGs are today, then you certainly have to say, look, what can you do more? And that is through advocacy, through the cooperation with the UN and other partners to raise awareness, but also urge far more action. And I think on action we are prepared to do as much as we can.
Ending poverty on a livable planet, what does it mean to you too? Perhaps, Amina, what does it mean to you?
Well, that's the SDGs. That's exactly what we did to say have these inclusive economies that deal with inequality, deal with people's issues, especially women and girls, but at the same time recognize that we have pushed the boundaries and are not likely to meet a 1.5-degree world. And you need that. So it's one thing to invest in people and development. It's another thing to say you're going to do it to the detriment of the planet. So things need to change in the way in which we reposition ourselves to support countries to do that. And that's why I think the whole question of a better bank is about what we were doing for the last a couple of decades is not what we need to do now. We need a different response. So different skill sets, different ways of addressing the support to countries, bringing in partners from the private sector, from other important stakeholders. And so it is about the SDGs. I cannot say anything else. That's still the framing around which sustainable development works.
And I think it is important to, apart from what Amina said, is we need to remind ourselves, we see this year as probably the hottest year in history. You see the devastating effect that has around the globe. And what we need to say, that is going towards an unlivable world. But we have also to keep it, we need to have sustainability in mind, we have to have resilience in mind, inclusion. And in particular also on the inclusion, it has to be that basically women have the same rights, girls have the same rights to education and a chance in life, and that we need to actually fight for that because we are still working in a very divided world, and that is not good enough for making it livable for all.
It also means resources. Resources are the financing that needs for this to happen. We have to deal with debt because we have got a number of countries who have to choose choiceless choice between servicing their debt, education, or health. We have other means, other instruments that we can use in rechanneling SDRs through multilateral development banks, tried and tested to get it out there. We could leverage that. Ultimately, is that, is there a will for us as leaders in the world, as those who have the resources to make them available for that livable planet that you talk about?
Amina, Axel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.